Ashford Social Media presents Dr. Cory Carter.
Welcome to my office. I'm in Black Hawk, South Dakota. I'm the managing trustee for AltMed Services.
What procedures do you perform in this room?
What we do in this room, we have a massage therapist that does massage, but the main idea is the machine that we have here. It's called the LymphStar Pro. We helped design it so that we could actually move lymph in a different direction and a different way than is traditionally done. Instead of just recycling the lymph, what we do is we actually get it to leave the body. I like to use the illustration of a waterbed. When you fill a waterbed too full, you get a crown in the middle, and literally you can push that crown to any corner that you want, but as soon as you take the pressure off of it, it all comes back to the middle again. What we found was that by going backwards and looking at some of the old documents and the old things written on lymph and the movement of fluids in the body, that we could actually get the body to eliminate those fluids, the excessive fluids, rather than to just recycle them or move them from one place to the other. A lot of the techniques out there, the Job wraps, the Job pumps and stuff, they will pump lymph back into your body because socially we don't think fat arms or fat legs are pretty, so we try to reduce that excessive fluid, and in that process we move it back into the trunk of the body where all of our vital organs are, which then puts pressure on those organs and helps them to function less effectively. We think of like the heart, where that it has to pump in order to do its job. If we bring in an excessive amount of fluid around the heart, or the pumping action takes more energy and is diminished and affects our health overall. So instead of bringing it from the extremities back into the body, what we end up doing is getting it to eliminate. We spend quality time in the bathroom, but that gets rid of that excessive fluid so that our organs can clean themselves again. One of the other misconceptions with regards to the lymphatic system is that it's your immune system. It has immune function for sure, but mostly what the lymphatic system is a garbage trap. It pulls debris and waste away from organs so that those organs can regenerate and do their job. So that's some of what we do in this room using a piece of equipment made by our tourist star out of Colorado that moves lymph. In addition to that, our machine can help with help reknit broken bones and sprained ankles, things of that nature. So this is an important room in my office. We do a lot of our physical therapies in here, our corrective structural things.
How did you become a naturopathic doctor?
My story about being a naturopathic doctor starts back when I was about 7 years old. My mother was very sick, and they told her, the medical doctors told her, that she would probably only make it to the end of the week. At that point, my folks decided that there had to be other alternatives, other things that could be done, and so they explored some of those things. Now, back in the 60s, kids were drug along with their folks rather than being taken to a babysitter. So my folks went to a man by the name of Jack LaLanne. He was a famous muscle man at that time, a chiropractor, and a naturopath. And he told my folks that there were some very simple things that could be done that would help her and extend her life. While my folks sat there and kind of pondered that statement, being kind of a precocious 7-year-old, I said, well, how simple is it? And Jack says, kid, I like your attitude. If your folks will bring you over, I'll teach you something. And in the process of getting my mom well, which by the way, with Jack LaLanne and a few other people, we bought my mom 28 more years. He did uphold his end of the bargain. He taught me many things. Some of them were very simple, some of them were a little more complex as I grew and got older. But as other kids were out hanging around playing baseball or football or out at the pool, I was hanging around with the old ladies and learning how to can peaches and grow tomatoes and for several years while my mom was nearly bedridden. I got to do the cooking, the canning, the laundry. When Mom got on her feet, she took things over again, but they were happy about the laundry because everything was starting to look pink. But when it came to the cooking, I cooked until I left home, which was about 19 years when I left. They liked my cooking better than Mom's.
Whose work has influenced you during your career?
Dr. Bernard Jensen from the San Francisco area wrote an interesting book, The Chemistry of Man, which is some of the foundations of what I do in my office. I like to go back to the older nutritional concepts, back when nutrition was a whole piece of food rather than a broken up vitamin or mineral. And that whole food concept is literally what helped my mother to survive and get over her major illnesses.
Can you tell us some of your many success stories?
My partner Randy has an incredible story. A guy came down to us from almost at Canada, and he was told that he had less than a month to live. Had prostate cancer. I guess literally if somebody told me I had a month to live, I'd go on a cruise. But he came down, he said, what can you do for us? And Randy literally bought him 8 more years. He did not die of prostate cancer. His tractor rolled over on him. He was 90-some years old, and a good friend. That's something that we do here as well. I have clients the first time you come into my office, and after that I have friends. And that's what we try to do, is we try to get to know you and your habits and coach. Another area that we've done some work in is that there's something in the neighborhood of 40 kids that wouldn't be alive if we hadn't applied the old principles. And so, again, some of the greatest joys that you're ever going to have as a parent is hold your own child. From my perspective, some of the greatest joys I've ever had is when somebody hands me their child. Makes today worth living.
What were you like growing up?
I've always enjoyed playing games. When I was a youngster, my cousins and I would sit around and play 30 or 40 games at one time. Big table, and we'd go around in circles. And the guy that won the most game was always king of Washington State. But that game playing taught me many lessons, in that in order to win a game, you got to know the rules of the game. In order to build health, you got to know the rules of the body. I can't play your game. I like to think of a boxing ring. You get to go out in the middle of it and fight with the day-to-day things of life. And when that doesn't work well, you get to come to the corner, and I get to wipe the blood off your cheek, and I get to stand you up and tell you where you're dropping an arm or you need to get back in the ring and fight again. So I look at myself as being a coach. By learning your game, I can coach your game better. And so when we do some of the teaching for lymphatics and for the computer work that we do, I teach people to be life coaches, not doctors, because doctors fix broken bones. We're coaches that help you build your health, build your life, get you back into your life. And literally it's going back to the old practices that have given us the best results. A lot of the new nutrition that we find in the textbooks literally breaks things down into such a small piece that they quit working. And so instead of using drugs and vitamins that are drug wannabes because they're so refined and so, one term they use is crystalline pure, they quit working at that level. What we try to do is go back and build health from the dirt up, and literally that's what I call it. I'm a guy that likes to play in the dirt. And literally, if we look at our body, we're a couple of shovels of dirt and 2 pails of water. Of course, a little more complicated mixed together, but if we don't have that very basic building material, like Great Uncle Frank would say, is that it's that apple pie that keeps you going. And so we have to have that literal nutritional base in our body to make a difference.
What path brought you to South Dakota?
My dad was in the Air Force. I was born at a little place in northern Washington called Moses Lake. I had the habit of closing air bases. The air base closed about 6 months after I was born, and so they moved him down to Hamilton Field in Central California. And after about 2 years there, they closed that air base too. So Dad got moved over to a Navy base, actually, because he was a jet engine specialist. And they decided that the Navy needed a little help. So I was raised in Central California. Went to school in Fremont, graduated high school in Gridley, California, a little farther north up. I was always the underperformer in class. I had severe dyslexia and dysgraphia. In fact, one of my teachers told me that I would never be a functioning member of society because I never tried and I couldn't read. And so, having conquered those with the help of Mrs. Gates, one of my teachers, helped me to realize that dyslexia was not a disadvantage. It was just something that you needed to learn how to use. So like any piece of equipment, it comes with a learning manual. And she taught me how to use dyslexia. She says, you're not better or worse than anybody else. You just perceive the world different. And I think that's what's helped me with naturopathy, is seeing the world different has helped me to help people get better, because I don't do the traditional things. We again view the world differently. So from there, we already touched a little bit on what Jack LaLanne helped me with at 7 years old. We started that one. Bernard Jensen, we started working with him probably when I was 11 or 12, and some of the other doctors. The first technique that I learned, again, I was probably 12, 13 years old, was iridology, how to read the eyes and use that to determine what the nutritional needs of the body were, what the organs were doing or not doing. From there, I went to another hands technique doing reflexology and zone therapy. At 17, I was working with a chiropractor in Gridley, Dr. Dean Richens, an incredible, gentle person. And then I learned massage, which actually created a bunch of problems, because a 17-year-old telling somebody to undress is just wrong. So I decided at that point I was done. I was not going to do any of this again. But some of the people that I helped, some of the people that knew that I'd helped my mother, kept following me around. And then I had a serious car accident and couldn't work for almost a year and a half. And I decided it was time to get more education at that point. I went to Healing Hands Clinic, Long Lake, South Dakota, got my certificate as a massage therapist. Anna Roth, an incredible lady. I wish I knew what she forgot. She was incredible, even up into her 90s when she was well into Alzheimer's. The only thing that really made her happy was you'd put a body in front of her and she'd work it. And her hands never forgot what to do. Her brain, you couldn't carry on a conversation with her, but the stories that her hands would tell. So at that point is when I first realized that some of my old teachers were actually naturopaths, so I pursued that to see what it would take to get a naturopathic degree. South Dakota recognizes naturopathy as a healing art. They don't recognize this as a primary care physician, which is fine with me because I don't want to do surgeries, I don't want to hand out drugs, and I don't want to deliver babies. So I challenged some of the tests. I took some of the coursework. Clayton College of Naturopathy was my first official school. I also learned at that point that there was a lot of things that I was missing from a practical point of view. So literally, I would find a doctor that was doing something that I wanted to learn, and I would go in and clean his toilets and vacuum his floors if he would teach me the technique. Dr. Griffin graduated from chiropractic college in 1927, when chiropractic was a 6-day-a-week endeavor, 10 hours a day of nothing but adjustments. They didn't teach you how to balance a checkbook or look in a microscope. It was all adjustment. And so he taught me some of the old techniques. Went to Dr. Victor Frank, learned kinesiology from him. Dr. Thie, many of the ones that are now gone, which is kind of a scary place to be in, is because all of a sudden now I'm one of the old timers, trying to preserve some of the old techniques. One of the techniques that I learned was the kinesiology, the old style kinesiology, and other naturopathic practices with structural integration. The last school that taught a technique that Dr. Kellogg taught was back in the 50s. The schools are closed. And that's one of the things I'm excited about, if I can come up with the finances for this school, is to bring back some of those old technologies, some of those old thought patterns, to be able to produce a new generation of creative thinkers. So my education, I don't consider it done yet. I don't know everything. I tell people that when I'm working with them that I need that interaction with them. I need them to tell me what's going on with themselves. And I tell people that there's no such thing as a foolish question. Every once in a while I reserve the right for a crazy answer. And sometimes my best answer is, I don't know. I'll try to find out. I'm not going to make things up. I'm not going to take money from people that I don't justifiably earn. So right at this particular point, the last time I counted, I have certificates in 29 different therapies. And out of each of those, I pick the things that work the best. I've been accused of doing miracles. I don't. It's just a lot of hard work and the foundations of the giants that I'm standing on their shoulders. We do good work.
How does technology play a role in your practice?
Okay, what we have here in front of us is a computer that reads acupuncture points. Generally what I tell people is that we do a physical from a Chinese perspective. We're able to look at individual acupuncture points which have been written about for at least 3,000 years, maybe used for another 1,000 years before that. Each of these acupuncture points can tell us something about the body. They can give us an individual piece of information. So as we move forward here, I'm going to come up to this particular acupuncture point here, relates to the large intestine. Literally, I can break the large intestine down into about 30 different pieces, so I can look at the intestine as a whole. Literally, when we have completed our screening, we have looked at 100 different points. Those points together give us the information that a physical would give us. So we're looking at the major organs, the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the intestine, large and small, the stomach, and then we can break them down into smaller pieces as to what each of those organs may be doing or not doing, the strength of the organ, the weakness of the organ. And so we gather that information. and no single point can give us enough information to work off of. We're not auto mechanics that will go out and take your water pump off or replace a spark plug or something like that. We have to look at the whole body as a unit to make a difference in your health. So this is one of the tools that we use. This particular one is made by StarTech Health out of Orem, Utah. Incredible piece of information, incredible tool to use, giving us incredible information. Working with it in the second level of the test gets into quantum physics. I'm sure everybody did very well in school on that. Quantum physics can tell us how small pieces react to one another. And so in the second part of the screening, we can go look for things that might be attacking the body, things that are interfering with health, and screen them, looking at many small pieces to help somebody to find if we've got yeast, mold, fungus, parasites, if we've got deficiencies of vitamins and minerals. All of those things can give us pieces of information in going backwards and building health. Then we can take those pieces of information and build an individual program for the specific individual, no longer treating them as an average, but literally this piece of equipment treats you, or it screens you today. Technically it does not treat, it screens you today, gives me current information up to date as to how your body's functioning. Then we can actually use a test plate back with our quantum physics again, and design a program that balances your individual readings. So as we look at this particular piece of equipment, the Chinese have always looked for three things in their healthcare: something that's in balance, something that's out of balance low, and something that's out of balance high. Now in the Western medicine, we tend to deal with out of balance high frequently. We call it an allergy. If we get an inflammatory response, which on the screen is going to be up here in this pink area, that inflammatory response may give us a skin rash, a runny nose, sneezes, swollen tongue, difficulty breathing. All of those are the inflammatory responses, or the itises. The yellow area is one that the West doesn't spend a lot of time in, and the technical name is called otis. Otis means slow, sluggish, retarded, backwards, inability to keep up with demand. And we tend to see that one sometimes when we eat a food and 20, 30 minutes later, we can't stay awake. That also is a out of balance response. But again, the West doesn't spend much time with that. Where life happens the best is right here in the middle. And the Chinese call that a balance point. And so the Chinese very seldom named a disease. They described it, sure, but they didn't actually give it a name if they could fix it. So there are very few named diseases in the Chinese medicine. And I like to adopt that same philosophy. I look for something that's in balance in the green, out of balance low, or out of balance high. And my goal is to put you back into balance, to build health again. And we use a large variety of things to do that. Vitamins, minerals, homeopathy, herbs, physical modalities such as we might recommend a chiropractor or massage or lymphatic drainage. We might recommend the frequency mats that we use, or colonoscopy or colon therapies, or other things of that nature, in order to get the body to run its God-given program, or to build health again. And this is one of the more valuable tools we use in that regard, because it gives us windows or snapshots of your life to take a look at and see where that we can build and improve on. It does use frequencies as well. These frequencies are not to the extent that they actually will change the body. They are more like a quiz or a question we can ask the body. How do you feel about this, or how do you feel about that? Do you have an adequate supply of vitamins or minerals? Are parasites affecting your life? So the three things that we see most in this office, we call it the American disease, lack of digestion. At some point in our life, we quit eating food. We eat a lot of things that are non-food. Read the labels of the things that you cook at home. There's a lot of chemicals added in there. So we can look at that aspect in are we able to digest and build because of our diet. So one of the first things that we look at then again is lack of digestion, followed very closely by lack of absorption. The two are different. Digestion works in the stomach, absorption works in the small intestine and large intestine. The second one we see very frequently is parasites. Now, the definition of a parasite is a plant or animal that lives opportunistically off of another plant or animal. So I tell people, if you're 40 years old and still at home, you're a parasite. Seriously though, we get all kinds of parasites from foods that we eat, from water that we drink, occasionally even bug bites like limes in West Nile are parasites. And then the third one that we see in the office is sleep problems. So those are the big three that we work with here, is digestion, parasites, and sleep. Literally, the books on parasitology will tell us that any known disease or any known symptom can mimic a parasite infestation. So that's why we spend a lot of time there. But the computer gives us that window to look at. We're not treating or looking at people as averages. We're looking at people as they exist today and what it will take to balance them or help them to come to a balance. And so this is one of the specialties of the office, one of the prime tools that we use. This is also something that we teach. We've taught 30 offices how to do this. We've taught doctors, chiropractors, dentists, and massage therapists how to do this and how to be technicians. And hopefully with the school now we'll be able to offer accredited degrees. We're in one of my therapy rooms here at AltMed Services. This particular mat that we're in front of, we imported from Hungary. It's a antenna basically, and what it does is provide frequencies for the body to utilize. Our body itself is an antenna. All throughout the day we pick up all kinds of frequencies, and but to give you an illustration, we pick up data through our body. We see somebody in a room far off and the short hairs stand up on our neck and we say, I don't want to talk to that guy. We picked up some sort of frequency, some sort of information that sends alarms off in our body. Well, we also have frequencies that they can benefit us. As an example of that, the right hug from the right person at the right time is an incredible builder of stamina, of health, of well-being. So taking some of those concepts of frequencies and the body being aware of its surroundings, some scientists in Hungary was studying the frequencies effect on the body. I think of a family, a dysfunctional family, where the father and the mother are at odds, and the children, as children know how to do, they interfere with that. They'll go ask mom first or dad first to get a different answer. And as that confusion is in the family doesn't work well. If we can get the individual organs in our body to communicate, we can then build health or have better health by doing that. And that's what the mat literally does. A person would lay on it. We've got a large antenna source that helps the body to speak to itself better. We've had people benefit from from lymphatic issues, from heart issues. My favorite one on the mat, it's called e-smog, emotional smog. When I work in the rest of the office, I pick up a lot of people's energies, a lot of people's sadness, and a bad day is when somebody comes in with cancer. I'm affected by that as well as they are. And so I come in and I will lay on the mat. E-smog is a way of getting rid of the emotional garbage that you picked up in a day. I'm the type of guy that if I'm going to take a nap in the afternoon, I'm now old enough to appreciate a nap, it's got to be 2 or 3 hours, or else it's not worth doing. My wife can take a power nap, 10 minutes, and she's happy. I can lay on this mat, set the program for e-smog, and in 35 or 40 minutes feel like I've had a 3-hour nap and get myself back up and ready to go back and do battle again. This room is important. It literally can change the way that your organs can communicate with each other, which then when we are trying to build health makes it a lot easier to get the job done. So this is just one of the tools that we've acquired. We search out legitimate technologies all over the world. And this is one that we brought in from Hungary. Does us well, does a good job. This particular product isn't designed to go after a specific disease. It's more, again, to build health rather than chase a disease. But one of the applications that we've used very successfully is we had a family that the 3 kids had pneumonia, and the mother was probably pretty close because she was worn out taking care of the kids. And so we set all 3 kids on the mat, and we used one of the frequencies that are just called strong, which basically makes the immune system to defend itself better. Literally, the mat is an antenna, and so it gives off frequencies the same way that the TV station or the radio station does, broadcasting information. We chose a small room to put this in because once this antenna starts, it will fill the whole room. Now, the person who lays or sits on the mat is going to get the stronger response, but anybody that's in the room is also going to receive benefit by being in here. And so the 3 kids that were sitting on the mat, because there wasn't enough room to lay them all here, received benefit. They started bringing up some of the congestion that was in their lungs. Mom, who was sitting off on the side, being in the small confined room, also received benefit, and her immune system strengthened. We get people into the office because we help the individual. We help that person be able to function better in their niche in life. Makes us look good. We're happy about that, but it gets them back into life. That's one of the things I tell people when we got them functioning well. I either get a handshake or a hug, depending on the person, and on the way out I tell them, keep making me look good, because it makes you look good. The world runs on money. I don't count myself rich by anything I've got in my checking account. I count myself rich by the people that I have and that I help. And literally in this office I have many projects, people that can't afford health care. I try to help as many as I can. There's no such thing as a free lunch in life. And so I have people that come in, the person that cleans my office can't afford health care. She was with severe asthma. She could hardly even get out of the house. Now she's doing 2 jobs, her kids are grown, she has grandkids, she's interacting with them. She can't afford to pay for health care. I needed somebody to clean the office. She comes in, cleans the office, we've got an agreement where that we switch. I've got a guy up in Montana whose body is literally turning to stone. And he's having a hard time getting government aid. They're denying him his Social Security benefits. a very decent guy, incredible knowledge of animals. We're working with him. His body is starting to respond. He's got flesh on his bones again rather than bones on his bones. As much as I possibly can, I try hard to touch as many lives as I can, even those who can't write a check or drop something down. We make quite a number of arrangements, and a lot of what I get out of these difficult cases is knowledge to help somebody else. So again, there's no such thing as a free lunch. I gain very usable knowledge by helping some of these people that can't help themselves. And that's a project that we've got going in the office. Each of the 3 testers, I've encouraged them to, myself being one of them, encourage them to have a project, or multiple projects, so that we can help people, but it also helps us to learn how to work with other people as well. We applied for, have not received as yet, but applied for a nonprofit status. And part of the nonprofit status was, do you have a way of outreaching into the community? And we've been doing that on our own without being forced to do it by a government regulation for years. It's how we walk out of the office with a smile on our face, because we are literally trying to help people. What we're looking at here is a picture of the United States. I had a little girl a few years ago say, "Where do your people come from?" And so she sparked this in our mind. We went out and bought ourselves a map of the United States, and every pin on this map represents somebody from a community that's come to our office. So as you notice, the center part of the state, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa, we've got a huge concentration that comes from that area. But my best records tell me that I've only got one state that we haven't got represented up there. Oh, I am going to have to take that back. Louisiana. We do have somebody from Louisiana now. So we have all 50 states represented, people to travel to our office. We get them sometimes for a couple of days and sometimes for a couple of weeks. But it's just an indication of what a little office in South Dakota can do. Here we have a map of the world, which again, AltMed Services is just a small company in the middle of South Dakota. We've got people that have traveled to us from 31 different countries. The last one that we just acquired was from Russia. We treated her sister very well, and so she flew all the way from Russia to be treated here in Rapid City, South Dakota. The wall, the shelf, we've got different nicknames for it here in the office. This is where the real learning comes in. This tells you if you know your stuff or not. Systemic Formulas is an interesting product line. They work with individual organs. I kind of like to think of it as like making lasagna. My daughter thinks lasagna is a white sauce with spinach. I think lasagna is a red sauce with spicy sausage. Literally, we know that it's lasagna by how it's made, by how it's layered, by what the components are. Systemic Formulas takes individual organs and we can adapt them, work with them. So like a good chef in making a fine meal knows what particular things to take, what things to put into the dish to make it taste better, to have it the right texture on your tongue, to make it palatable. So one of the jokes we say in the office with Systemic Formulas is that they have 3 products that work with the liver. And we tell people to go get the L out, get the liver out to help benefit the liver. But we know that the old nutrition tells us that the liver communicates with the pancreas. And so a lot of times when we have somebody that comes in with diabetes or pancreas issues, we need to support the liver in order to get the pancreas to do its job. and this is one of the reasons why I really like working with systemic formulas, is because they deal with the whole body and are aware of the inner reactions between the organs. Another interesting inner reaction is heart and kidney. Sometimes we hear congestive heart failure. That's actually a kidney problem. It's not a heart problem at all. And so if we keep chasing the heart in and congestive heart failure, we don't gain anything. So by bringing in kidney and heart at the same time, we can deal with that and actually get better results, different results than what Western medicine does. So I live and die on this shelf. This is where my success is. And learning the individual companies by going to Doc Wheelwright himself and learning his mechanism, his thought process, is where we get our success. My job is on an individual basis, on a client basis, is to pass that knowledge on. Also, on the higher level, teaching clinicians what to do is important. And literally going back to the old masters and the stories that they would tell you. Sometimes you'd have to sit at their feet and listen to a 2-hour story to get that one gem out of them. And I've had the privilege of sitting at some of their feet. What I like to do then and enjoy to do is teach people on any level, lecturing in the office, teaching other practitioners. In order to be a teacher, I had to be taught. And so I'm not done learning. I keep seeking out people that know more than I do. We have a network of practitioners that we work together. If we've got problems, we communicate. And part of it is knowing nutrition. Now, indeed, there are other companies out there, and probably substantial companies. In my 30 years of practice, these are the ones I've chosen. Now we're in an important part of the office, not just because it has a sink back here, but because of the water unit. We have found in our office that we make this water available to anybody that will come and get it. We have a donation box, which if they will throw in, that's fine. But what we found is if they add this water to their regime, it's Kangen water, their need for nutrition diminishes. We have found people with irritable bowel syndromes, just by adding water in, Kangen water, into their diet, the irritability of their bowel diminishes, all the way up to the point where that we've actually seen the bleeding stop. So the water, good water, not tap water, not distilled water, reverse osmosis, or preferably Kangen water, makes a huge difference in our success. And so we've got people that literally drive 150, 200 miles to come and get our water. And they bring gallon jars and take much water back with them. In addition to that, the herbs that we've got on the shelf are raw herbs that we buy from very special places around the world. Most of these are coming from Australia and New Zealand. We've got some coming from Oregon. What we like is herbs that are what are called wildcrafted, which are actually pulled out of the forest, pulled out of the, not commercially grown, that don't have commercial fertilizers on them. And what we do back here is we just kind of call this mix and tea. We make a tincture of herbs, a combination of herbs, literally that matches you, that your body is going to be able to deal with, rather than buying a preset 5 different herb combination. We can actually put these herbs on a test plate and prove that they will benefit you. So we custom blend teas for you to take. This actually is one of the harder things to teach people how to do. And so, yes, there's an incredible amount of science here, but when you get right down to it, the success is art. Years of practice, talking to the old herbalist, how they mix things. One of my favorite little tricks that I learned was from an herb called gymnemia. Most of the time it's an herb that's used to help people balance blood sugar issues. One of the old herbalists I worked with, he says, always put just a little bit in there because gymnema wakes up other herbs. And so, yeah, we can get blood sugar benefit from it, but it will make your tincture work 4 or 5 times harder with just a little bit in there. It's kind of like that chef that has a secret recipe, a secret item that he puts in there. And that's one of my favorite ones, is the gymnema, because it makes the others work harder. And this little shelf back here, even though it's small compared to our other shelf, has a myriad of secrets in it and ways of going about things. And oh yes, none of them are pleasant tasting. What's the bottom line? We do things differently. Therefore, we get a different result. One of the definitions of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different response. Well, there are needs for legitimate Western view healthcare. And if you have those needs, be first in line. Get there as quickly as you can. We offer an alternative to that. We try to build health rather than chase disease. With the 30-some years of practice clinically, and also starting when I was very young, helping my mother to regain a measure of her health, and giving her another 28 years that we could enjoy her company. We need to think differently, do things differently. So here in the Office of Alt Med Services, we work with clients from all over the world, all over the United States. We also teach people to be practitioners. One, I found that I can't put many more hours in. I can't duplicate myself any more than I already have. In my office, we have 3 testers. We have 2 technicians, and we are busy all the time. We would welcome somebody that comes in that needs help. At the other side of it, we also want to teach people the way that we've got our own successes, using things like the vitamins, the minerals, the herbs, the homeopathics, the frequency mats, the other things that have proved successful. All of these things grouped together make the success that we have here in Alt Med Services. If we can be of service to you, you can hear me and some of my lectures on Ashford Publishing Radio, as well as my website, lymphinfo.com. We strive to be of service. We enjoy working with people, meeting new people, having new friends, because we don't like clients and we don't like patients. We want to be useful and help the community at large. I'm Dr. Cory Carter. I'm a naturopathic physician in Black Hawk, South Dakota.
Ashford Social Media would like to thank Dr. Cory Carter for taking time to discuss his practice with us. This has been an Ashford Social Media production.